This episode does use tools such as Adobe Xd and Protopie, so if you do not have either of those tools, feel free to go ahead and check them down in the description below. How's everybody doing? My name is Akram. This is Design Time, a YouTube channel dedicated to creating web design and also implementing web development. Hopefully we'll get to the web development part soon. In this first video, what you see on the screen is what we'll be making. We'll be using Adobe Xd to create this wonderful looking mini landing page and Protopie to adding these great animations. So let's not waste any time. Let's go ahead and get started with Adobe Xd. So now that we're in Adobe Xd, I want to take a quick second to jump away from the project and give us a design tip. Our first design tip of the video and of the series will be to limit the number of fonts that you are using. Keep the number of fonts used in a project from 1 to 3. In this project alone, we are using two types of fonts. We're using a serif and a sans serif font. Over here in the section where the character styles, and I'll describe this in a second here. In Adobe Xd, we do have a playfair display for our headers, and then our paragraph tags, we are using a font called Avenir, I believe, or Avenir. But that's our design tip for the first episode. Hopefully our future episodes will be a lot more smoother and a little more helpful, I guess. So that's our design tip for episode 1. Let's actually jump into the project and create this design. Now that we're in Adobe Xd, I want to take a quick second also to just zoom in a little and give you a better look of how this project looks. So let's go ahead and click the preview button of this project. It is very important to understand that when you're starting out and you're creating these designs, a lot of people have trouble creating new design and showing that, hey, we can design. A lot of times it's very difficult to try to come up with your own company, but in this case, I just came up with anything really. Doesn't need to make sense. People are just looking at what you could really do as a designer. So our company is called Live Life, and we are creating a safer world to discover. Plain and simple. So you can see the Avenir font being used anywhere but the header. This is the playfair display. We do have these grid lines in the background that kind of lead the user and section off different parts. It's fine when it comes, running off here, and I'll describe how these layouts or this grid actually works, but you can see how it directs the user to the discover button, and when we scroll down, you'll see a little more, kind of gives us these sections. And so it isn't a very strong, grid in the background that bothers us all that much. We only, really notice it when it has these empty spaces, which lead users to pretty much a certain button or link that we want them to click through. So this is just a greater detailed look rather than the dribble animation. So yeah, let's go ahead and create this in Adobe Xd. Now that we're in our project, we're calling it YouTube Video 1 because I am a noob at creating videos right now. So go ahead and select the A key in your keyboard and scroll down to where it says Web 920, and that will create us a new artboard. Let's call this, what was our company called? Live Life, I believe. Let's go ahead and call it that for now. So the thing that I mentioned earlier was the grid layout in the background, and how we're going to create that would be just to double click on the artboard, enable layout in the grid section, and the Adobe standard or the Xd standard of the columns would always default to 12. We're going to change it to 8. And before continuing on, if you hear background noise in the background, I do apologize for that. It's extremely hot in this room and I need a fan going on. I'll do my best to make it better sound and make it sound better in post. Now that we have this grid layout enabled, I do have this grid lines color. And by the way, the project itself can be found in the description below if you need all these colors and character styles and components that I'll be using in this project. So let's go ahead and select the line tool for the grid, and we'll just start on both ends and go ahead and draw a line straight through. And if you wanted to copy this, go ahead and select Option on your Mac. I'm not sure how you do it on Windows, but hopefully someone just grabs it. And select it all the way to the right, and my computer is dying. I'll plug it in a second. So select it and move it all the way to the right, and then the third one will be just down the middle or the center, and you can center it here through this center align button on the top right of your panel. So we'll go ahead and select the line tool again, or actually we can just copy, and we'll copy and move it to the far left side so we can create two columns, and we'll do the same here. Oh, we're still selected on that. Let's go ahead and Option Shift to keep it straight and just move it to the other two columns on the right side. So this is our grids laid out for now, the ones that go vertical. Go ahead and double click on your artboard again and disable the layout. So if we were to leave it with this color or this border, the 707070, or the one that Adobe Xd gives us, it would be too strong and kind of mess up the depth of field that we have. So go ahead and select all of them, and you want to select apply border, on the grid lines, which is EF, EF, EF. Select apply border, and it's a lot lighter. So once they've all been selected, let's go ahead and create our nav bar. Now for the navigation, the height that we will have is 125 pixels. Now it is very important that since it is a transparent background, we want to kind of create our little guideline through this I guess rectangle tool. Go ahead and create one that stretches from the far left border and the far right border, and add the height to be 125 pixels. And we'll remove this in a second, but essentially what we want to do now is create the logo on the far left, our nav items on the right, and including our contact. So adding your logo or your company name, go ahead and select the text tool, and in this case, let's go ahead and just write company. And I kind of went with a different style, and I'll show you that in a second. When it came to our headers, the letter spacing was further apart, and that is just kind of the overall style that we use across the entire landing page. So I believe I have it here in the character style. It's called link tags, and you could see on the right side it's at 16 pixels 200. That's what our navigation links or A tags would be called. But for our logo, we do want to make it a little larger, so let's go ahead and do 20 pixels, and let's add I think black would be too much. Let's do heavy. I forgot to mention in the character styles, any character you do add, it adds the, I guess, entire style. So the font weight, the text size, and the color as well. So when we selected link tags, it already gave us the color of our headers. So now that we have our company name set, we'll just move it all the way down to the far left here. And to make sure it's centered with our navigation height, we can select the logo and select the background, which is our navigation height that we set to 125 pixels. And in the top left, once we select both, it will let us align it to the very top or very bottom or centered. In this case, we do want it centered. So go ahead and select that. And the logo that we did create, a super simple logo, but it's just something we did follow, was this square that we just set to 25 pixels. And it kind of had this little edge piece that was kind of taken off. So what we could do in this case is create that, disable the border, fill in the fill with the headers color, and in this case what we could do, since we're not pros at pin tooling, I believe it's called, we'll go ahead and make a copy, turn this into white, and then move it back on top, and we wanted to create a perfect identical corner. And that gives us a perfect 4x4 square. And if we move this here, is it perfect? Doesn't seem perfect. No, it's not. One more, is that? Okay. Okay, I look like a fool now. Let's do 26 because we do need it even. There we go, and there we go. Now that it's a perfect 4-piece, 13 and 26. We'll select the background, and then now that we double tapped on it, we do have this pen tool that we can create any shape that we want. Since we do have our helper here, we'll select this edge piece and this edge piece, and we'll select the very top right corner and delete that little edge that we have as our logo. So go ahead and shrink that a bit to match the logo, and we can select both and make sure they're centered correctly. Just move it to the right slightly. Yeah, it looks good. So that's our company logo and our company name. Awful logo, but that's not what we're creating here today. The next thing what we do is we need to add our next tags. So what we could do is actually just make a copy of this using the option in the shift, lower this down to our 16 pixels, or select the link tags that we have available. And with this selected, go ahead and select that, select the background or the navigation and center it. And I want to say we want to move it a little slightly to the right here, kind of give it more space to the company logo. So we do need to make extra tags here, and this is not going to be called company. We'll just say discover. Our next link would be pricing. If we make one more, it's going to be called support. We have 3 tags, and also our last but not least would be our contact. So these are our tags, our navigation tags. Let's go ahead and get these spaced out correctly. So I do want about 100 to 110 pixels. So right now we're at 116. Let's go ahead and do 110. And Adobe Xd has these smart guides that work really well. 110, 110, 110. Perfect. Now we do want to make our contact button stand out when we're creating this. Use some help with our grid lines, and we're going to create a box that will be red because that is our primary color. And using Command and Shift, and in the bracket, we can push that back, forward and back. So let's go ahead and get that pushed back. And we need to center this contact button. We'll do that by selecting both and hitting center keys. And now let's go ahead and turn this to white, since black kind of fights with the red. It doesn't really stand out all that much. Perfect. So this contact button there, let's just see, 129. We need to do 110 here. 111, 110, boom. Great. So now that we have our company name, our links, and our standing or our contact button that stands out and differentiates than the other links, let's go ahead and disable this grid layout so we could see it better. And if we delete this background, we've kind of got our navigation set up nicely. If we hit the preview button, this is how it looks so far. Now, based on creativity and some inspiration that you might have, we kind of want to follow our little logo here that we did create, our wonderful, unique logo. And we want to play off this, and that is what we could do here. So what I'm referring to is add the logo in as a background for the contact button. And I do have a component here. So we'll go ahead and take a shortcut for the sake of this tutorial. What you could do is add a square on the edge of it. Let's go ahead and create an even square. Quit being lazy. And then just delete the end, and then just kind of layer it on top. And then, like I said, you just get into here and just cut it all out. But for the sake of this video, we're just going to save some time using the components tool and add that in there. Perfect. So preview this. That is how our navigation looks right now. It looks wonderful, actually. So moving down the ladder, you've got the navigation. The next thing that you need to add is your headline or your call to action area. And in this case, what we had as a message on the very top, what we wanted to get across to the user is that, hey, we're creating a safer world with we're creating a safer world. And typically when creating websites, you've got this headline and you've got this little paragraph tag to describe a little more than what it is you do. So that's what we're going to go ahead and create here. So in the text tool here, go ahead and select that. And for now, we'll put in just 2 letters because it is white and I hate when this happens. But let's go ahead and turn this to headers. Cool. So our message was creating a safer world to discover. Beautiful message. Whoever came up with that is a genius. Now that that's created, let's go ahead and blow this up. And there, you could leave it like that and it doesn't even look half bad. But for our sake, we are using the Play Fair display, which is a Google font. I have the character style already selected, and what I have it at is 117 points for the size, character spacing at 15, and line spacing at 140. Now in Adobe Xd, what you could do is in the text section, you have this button here that allows it to create a text area rather than just one line. Point text is what it's called. So go ahead and select this, and this allows us to drag it around. Let's go ahead and re-enable the grid tool actually. And we kind of want all of our text to be around these two, this entire centered column. So if we just expand this a little more, perfect. Great, that looks wonderful. Now let's beef this, bring it up a little to, let's just say 200. Is 250 pixels good? And then 125 from the 125 height header. Perfect. There's a lot of background noise outside. I'm very sorry, guys. It is July 3rd, so people are gonna start partying. Cool, we have our headline here. The next thing that we want to do is our little paragraph tag that we have written. And for this sake, we're just gonna add a bunch of gibberish for now and go ahead and use the p tag. Our p tags are using the Avenir 22-point character spacing at 15, line spacing at 48. What the line spacing is, sorry, I've had to describe, it is the space between one line of text and the next line. So it just creates this nice space here. But in this case, I'm just gonna grab some text that I've already written because I do not feel like coming up with a new slogan or a little badass blurb. But in here, same idea. We're just gonna go ahead and create the grid, the area text, and go ahead and bring this, fix the width on it a little. We kind of just want it centered between these both sides over here. Let's push it down to the right. And so ultimately you're just kind of playing with it. You could follow the rule set, but like I said in the beginning of the tutorial, we are just kind of breaking that. Rules are meant to be broken, am I right? That's an awful joke. Voila. Let's see how that looks. Cool. Now, what I kind of imagined when creating this is I do want this to kind of be more of a slider, presenting you several pieces of text. So I think in the dribble animation, you do have this like one slide that shows you certain description, and then you've got like a next slide that shows you another one, and the red bar kind of shows the status of how much longer you've got to read that. So that's what we want to go ahead and do, is go ahead and create the line tool here. And we're going to do our best to center. There is a better way of doing this, but for the sake of this tutorial, we're just not going to do it that way. But we just want to center the line with the discover and give it, I want to say like 4 pixels. 4 pixels looks good. 5 looks even better. So go ahead and do your best to center in between. Great. So that is going to be our progress bar that determines when the next set of description kind of flows in. So now that we've got this, we need a button or a button to click through wherever it is you want the client to go. So what we're going to do is create a new button. And anytime we're creating any buttons or kind of like a layout or laying things out, we do want to re-enable the grid. So you want this to match exactly how we have it here. So let's go ahead and add a main color to this. Let's go ahead and disable the border also. Zoom out. It looks a little too high. Let's just bring this down to, let's say 85. Let's do 80. 80, 191. That's a little odd. 191, but hey, that's what the grid says. Let's just stick with it. There's definitely trial and error when creating this, but for the sake of this video, we're just going to leave it at 191 and 80, and we want to keep it the same size as our tag, so we could just do the whole copy method and just move this back. We didn't even copy it. Oh, there it is. Okay, and we'll go ahead and center it, and let's make it white so we could follow our contact button is, and let's see how that. But it's not going to be call pricing because we need it to make sense. Go ahead, and what I did right here is I made the text centered, because if I left align it, writing whatever would just kind of move it out the way, and that's not what we want. We want to center it and then change whatever content so that we don't change the flow, but we still need to make sure everything looks good and centered here. So let's go ahead and disable the grid and see how that looks. Preview that, and so far so good. Liking how this is going so far. Now, it looks a little empty here, and so I do want to play a little more on the grids that we have set up. So I want to go ahead and copy this, and let's bring this down to the center of discovery, and just move this all the way to the right. Let's see if that made it any better. So looks a little more full. We still have a image that's going to go here on the bottom right. Oh, sorry, on the bottom. Let's go ahead and add that. So I have a component laid out that contains our wonderful image. If you do want to create this, it is the same concept as creating contact, and then adding that little angle or our logo. And then what you want to do is you want to drag and drop an image right onto that layer, and that replaces it. Let's go ahead and center this perfectly. And we want to show a little bit of it, not the entire thing, but a little bit of it, just to give the user an idea that, hey, you know, there's stuff going down on here. We could scroll down and check it out. So once we've added enough margin, is 125 good? Let's do 120, 125 actually. And so we kind of have our first impressions area. Let's go ahead and see how it looks here. Looks pretty good. I'm liking it a lot. We need to add kind of a little description to this. So double click on your layout and bring this down. And what we can do is go ahead and just copy this, bring it down here, and we'll just call it reshaping. I'm not even selected. Control Z, bring this down, and then we'll call it reshaping San Francisco? Is that still San Francisco? Is that how you spell San Francisco? If that's not how you spell San Francisco, I'm gonna look like a fool. Anyway, make that white, layer it on top, Command Shift, and then right bracket, and that will bring it to the front. And go ahead and just kind of align this correctly. So what I like to do is use the Option key and just hover over whatever it is that I want to see. And it will give you the distance between a certain layer and another layer. So in this case, from the margin top, we have a 21. And I'm going to kind of keep it just 2020, 24, and 26, 20.6. I think, you know, it's really not a huge deal getting it perfectly. I think this works just as well. So with that layout being kind of made, let's go ahead and select the grids that we have and bring them all the way down to complete our website here. And we did see that, let's go back and reference to the dribble page. We did see that once we scroll down, we have a little section or a little about us section. The image, we have our humble beginning paragraph tag, and then what do you call it? There's like some sort of safe, let's go back and see. Can't really describe it, but it's a text that gives us safer, and that kind of just adds a little texture to the background and makes it a little nicer looking. Now that we want to go ahead and create this bottom section, we have the image here. We're going to create the title or this little about us section, and we're just going to call it our humble beginnings. And so we have a subheaders character style that we can kind of just drag and drop. Actually, you can't even drag and drop. What am I doing? Go ahead and select the text tool, write our humble, if you could hear my keyboard, I'm sorry, but our humble beginnings. You can't see it because it's white. Click subheaders. Now we do want it all caps, so go ahead and select these double T's, and that will make it uppercase. So go ahead and let's see how we want to align this. I typically like to add padding around text because if we kind of you can kind of see it doesn't really look all that well when it's lined up to the grid. It's all personal preference, honestly. I'm going to add a 16 pixel padding, and the way I would do that would just be drag it right, and then see the margin. So 16 pixels, there we go. And then on the very top, I want 100 pixels margin. Cool, 100.6. Now let's go ahead and create another paragraph text. We kind of just want to copy this, bring it to the left, and give it double what we have on 16 pixels on the left. There's really no correlation between the 16 pixels on the left and the 32 pixels. It's just kind of a preference that I have. And what we can do is just drag this all the way to the right. And let's go ahead and grab some lorem ipsum text and just drop this in here. And bring this down a bit. And we do want to add a link. And we could kind of just add another link like so. But in our case, for a variation, we do not want too many buttons that look like our main buttons that we want individuals or users clicking on. So in this case, we're just gonna add a let's read more link. And we can give it 60 pixels, actually pretty good space. Actually, 50? 46. 32. 16. It's not so bad. Okay, cool. And similar to what we did above on the Discover link, we want to bring that down to our Let's Read More link and give it 16 pixels. And our grid's kind of just cut off here. Let's select all of our grid lines and push them down. Perfect. Now, I did mention we have that safer text for our texture because it kind of just looks a little empty. I do have a faded text here that can kind of just be used, or I created a component earlier. I'll go ahead and drop that for the sake of time. But how you can create this would just be very simple. So you can kind of, I'll show you here on the side. Select the text tool, create the height and the width, add, let's say hello, and let's turn this to dark black or just a black color, and just buff up the font size to 200 or any font size that you really want. I would say 600. Now, in our case here, we do need to fix the letter, not the letter spacing, but the line height. That's what I'm trying to say. So 600, and just playing with it a little, like so. And you could kind of see that, but setting it left. So like so, but in our case, we kind of just went with safer and just laid it out. So that is our UI design. Let's go ahead and run through it one more time. So we got the company, got the navigation links. And what I did on the first one is I created an example of what it might look like to hover through, and what that is, or hover on an item, and what that is just a line that kind of crosses out. So anytime you would hover, it's just like so. Very, very simple. But yeah, so this is our design. We have a company name, navigation, contact button, our main message, a little description of what we are, our discover button. Scrolling down, we do get an image, and that kind of tempts us to scroll down. And so we get that second section, which is our humble beginnings or a little about us. So that concludes this Adobe Xd tutorial. The next part is taking this, throwing it into Protopie, and adding all those crazy animations. This is my first design tutorial. I'm very excited on getting started. If you have any tips, let me know in the description down below. I do want to get a little better. I do want to kind of reach out there and grab those dribble-worthy designs that we all see and just wish we can make, and hopefully provide great tutorials and great examples. As I said from before, feel free to go ahead and comment down below on anything that I can improve. I'll definitely read those and improve my skills of creating content. Thanks again for watching. Have a wonderful day.